Hey everybody, welcome to this very special video. The Night Age is now officially 2 years old, and to celebrate I asked the staff members to record a small video to talk about it and just whatever they wanted to say. So this video is not about me, so I'm gonna make this really short. Enjoy the videos and happy birthday Night Age.
Hi everybody, my name is Jared Pomeroy. I'm with the lecturing team, and I just wanted to take a minute and say I'm very appreciative for my chance to contribute to this community, to this project. It's something that I feel is really important. I think a lot of us probably experienced and could probably intimate just our negative feelings over the whole demise of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, what Games Workshop kind of put us through with that whole fiasco. And being able to be part of this project for me means that I get to be part of that movement of breathing new life into this hobby. Of restoring it, and more than that, just taking it places it's never been before. I've got a lot of hope for the future of the project. I'm excited to see where we go from here, and and I think there's something about this hobby as well that is really important. That I used to take for granted a lot, and I don't anymore, or at least I try not to, is the fact that it's different than any other gaming genre that I know of. Not only are we able to share the hobby, but it goes beyond just the modeling, the painting, the creative outlet. It goes beyond the competition and the challenge. It's a relational thing. I've made friends through this hobby. I've been playing for decades now, and it's something where I've made lifelong friends. There's an actual real live person on the other side of the table from you, and you get to engage with them and share life with them and be part of who they are as a person, and you being able to share that is something that you just don't get with other games. So I think this is just a wonderful thing to be able to celebrate the second anniversary of the Ninth Age project, and I thank you all for your contributions, the way that you have contributed to this project, and I'm excited to be part of this community as we move forward. Thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Καλησπέρα σας από την ηλιόλουστη Αθήνα. Hello everyone, it's Vasilis or Kaiser Soze from the Ninth Age Forum. I'm here in Athens in my Ninth Age shirt, and I'm here to say a few words about the Ninth Age, which is becoming 2 years. So happy birthday to our project. I'm part of the design team, of the Army Book design team. I've been following this project since the beginning. It's been an amazing experience overall. I have learned many things about the game, about the rules. I've become a better player myself. I have learned to work with various people, amazing people I've met, and after those 2 years I still have the same motivation and excitement as the first day. And that's the magic about it, about the Ninth Age, what we have achieved so far. I'm also an ETC referee, so I will be in Spain in approximately 1 month. And one thing I really enjoy is the social part of our hobby, so I will be very happy to meet most of you there. So I hope you are all enjoying this game, enjoy the work that we have done so far, and we will keep trying for the best. So see you in Spain. Bye.
Hello everyone, this is Schlagrabak, and I'm here with you to celebrate the 2 years of the Ninth Age project. So this has been quite an amazing experience for me and I guess for the hobby in general. So with all these volunteers coming together from around the world and different background to build a project. Yeah, and so I hope it continues for many years because it's amazing. And I'm glad to be part of the project with you. Okay, thanks for listening and see you soon on the forums, guys. Bye bye.
Hey everybody, Dark Wizard here. First I want to just congratulate 9th Age for the first 2 years. What an amazing first 2 years that we've had. I'd like to thank everybody from the staff members that have given so much of their time into putting this project together, to all the gamers that have really embraced this and made it the culture that we have right now. Between all the local game scenes that I see growing and the tournaments definitely expanding, it's such a wonderful thing to see that our beloved Fantasy Battles is going strong right now. 9th Age has changed my life quite a bit as well, because first I wouldn't have a YouTube channel without 9th Age. I never really felt the need to promote any of the wargaming that I did in the past, and when this got going I wanted to help as much as I could to just spread how great this game is with 9th Age. So it inspired me to create some battle reports, and I'll be doing some other projects here coming up, as well as it brought me back into fantasy gaming, because the way 8th edition was going, I had just lost interest in fantasy, and it's something that as soon as this was released, I knew it would be a great thing for our fantasy battles, and they haven't disappointed. I mean, the rule sets where they've come so far with all the army books is just truly amazing for a volunteer organization, and I know over the next 2 years we're going to see so much more with full rule sets for armies with backgrounds, a complete version 2.0 that's a very stable list. So anyway, I can't wait to see what happens over the next couple years. So enjoy the ride, and congratulations on the first 2 years.
Hi, this is Eric, or Fugen, from the 9th Age team. And over here is my wife.
Hi, for Cities Muse and Camille in real life.
Yeah, so I'm the head of rules team and the head of rules review team and the founder. And in the warrior book, the team leader. So I have head of lots of teams.
Yeah.
And you are
head of HR.
So we are the head of couple on 9th Age. 2 years ago I started on this adventure, and you joined.
Well, unofficially a few months after, but officially half a year after, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So.
And there we are.
Should we say happy birthday?
Happy birthday to the 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is an adventure that will continue. We will have lots of fun years together. Love you all, sweethearts.
What's going on, guys? Busta Move here to celebrate the 9th Age 2nd year anniversary. Whew, time flies, right? So, what has the 9th Age done to influence me? Wow, so I was really strict about my gaming, or I still am. I started playing Warhammer, never tried any other game systems or something like that. Played really casually. And so when End Times came around, that was too wanky for me. So you can imagine what I thought about Age of Sigmar. I was like, can't do it. Really sad, but no thank you. It ends here. Thought my hobbying days was over. Pretty close-minded, but what can you do? I know what I like. So I heard some rumors about the 9th Age, and to be honest, I was really was really skeptical. I was like, it could be great, but I doubt it. Didn't think a non-profit organization like that would last. I was like, okay, probably gonna start up being a bit fun, but then people are gonna try other game systems. I was like, models and rules that will never be updated, everything like that. So I was a non-believer. Fast forward to a couple of years later, and to me, the hobby is better than it ever was. I started attending tournaments through the 9th Age. Now I go to as many as I can. I even started making content, make YouTube battle reports now. Pretty crappy ones, but still. For me, it's really fun. And yeah, the 9th Age really proved me wrong. So it's impressive, it really is. Like, there are some dedicated staff members doing impressive work here, and I really appreciate it. So, congratulations, I suppose, and let's keep it up.
Happy second birthday, 9th Age, from Scottish Knight. 2 years. It's been 2 years of stealing our sleep, of getting us into arguments and fights and discussing the merits of square bases over round bases. But it's also been 2 years of making new friends, of pouring passion and time into something that has turned out to be a phenomenal project. And I hope that in 2 more years' time we'll be looking back and thinking the 9th Age has got a long way to go, but we still love it. And,
hey everyone, Once Bitten here. So as you may or may not know, the 9th Age has its 2-year anniversary coming up soon. And because of that, Blonde Beer reached out to a lot of members of the community and asked them to speak a little bit about, the 9th Age, celebrating it, or, just talking about it, or whatever. And yeah, I wanted to do that. The first thought that came to me was, if I'm going to celebrate, if you will, the 9th Age and what it's been like for the last couple of years, the first thing I have to ask myself is, well, what is it I was looking for? Now, if you follow my channel, you may or may not remember that I went through, at the end, when Games Workshop blew up Warhammer Fantasy, I went through a phase where I was saying, okay, well, am I going to play Age of Sigmar, or am I going to play Kings of War? Am I going to play Warhammer Fantasy? And in my mind, those were really the 3 options. Malifaux is a great game, but in my mind, it's not nearly the same game this is. It's just a different game, and I wasn't interested in that. And I gave Age of Sigmar only a fleeting chance. And to me, it very quickly seemed apparent that it just was a different game. I don't mind Age of Sigmar as a game. To me, it reminds me of 40K, and I don't play 40K for the same reason. So they're similar games. It wasn't for me. So what I was looking for was something that would allow me to keep playing the kind of game that I like to play. I mean, I really love the fantasy setting. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. Game of Thrones, anything like that. I just really like it. I wanted something in that genre. I wanted something that gave me that epic feel, and that gave me an excuse to buy and build and customize and paint models. I mean, it's the hobby part I've really grown to love over the years. And I love the strategy part. I really like. Growing up, I always loved strategy games, or as a kid, we owned Monopoly and Risk, and I could never get anybody in my family. My family didn't play games ever, and now people in my family don't play games. So it's been really nice with Warhammer and now the 9th Age that that's just a hobby I do, is I go play strategy games. I just really like that. But I wanted a game where movement mattered, where there was, again, this feeling of epicness. If I had my druthers, I wanted a game that was more balanced than what Warhammer Fantasy often was. And I like the idea of diversity. There are times when I want to field tons and tons of troops, and there are other times when I don't want to, when I want to have maybe a big monster mash or hero hammer or something like that. So, my druthers was to find a game where some diversity was possible. But overall, I was looking for a game that had some kind of community that allowed me to continue the gaming experience that I had grown used to and that I really liked. And I would say, looking back over the last 2 years, how would I rate it? And I would say, well, this sounds overstated, but it really isn't. I mean, it's been the best 2 years of gaming experience that I've had, and I've been playing games not that long, maybe 10 or 12 years or something. But never has it been a paradise in playing games. I mean, when I first started playing, there was no crowd. There was nobody to play a game against. There was actually, when I first started playing, which is 5th edition, I only played for 6 months, and the community drove me away. I mean, a buddy got me into it. I played him several times. It kind of got boring because I didn't even own any armies. I played his armies. Anyway, I played him, and so then I found there were some local players that played, and so we showed up, and they were just very off-putting. They were very exclusionary, and it was very difficult. I could find a game, but I don't know. When nerds act like they're not going to let somebody else into their group, I've got a real problem with that. And I'm not saying everybody who plays this game is a nerd, but this group was kind of fit that caricature. Anyway, but they I just quit playing. I'm like, I don't enjoy these people. They're not fun to hang around with. And then my buddy quit playing and whatever. But then when I got back into it, I played 7th edition, and it seemed like I would have a few months of having fun. And we started getting the community growing a little bit. But then Games Workshop would come out with things that just broke the game. It made it not fun. So I guess my only point there is that it was never perfect, but it was always good enough and fun. And over the 9th Age, the last 2 years, I would say, is there everything about the gaming scene now that's perfect? I'd say, well, it's not perfect. It's just better than I've ever had. I think a lot of those things are probably specific to my situation. Here locally, we were able to pull in a bunch of people who had played Fantasy in the past, but they were not active during 8th edition. They were playing 40K, and they came back to Fantasy, which is just kind of cool. So we've got a gaming group of, 10 really active players, and then another additional 10 sporadic players. And when I say local, I mean within a half-hour drive. That can play at the same game store. And that's impacted a lot. That means that on a weekly basis, I can get friendly games in whenever I want, and I've been doing that a lot. The tournament scene that we built under Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition here in the Mid-Atlantic is stronger than it was through most of the time. It isn't quite as strong as it was during the peak, the heyday, but that was only a couple years. So, when we have tournaments, if it's a 2-day tournament, we get between, I don't know, maybe a small one would be 30, and it seems like, in my mind, 30 to 50 or 60 people. So I'd like to see those get a little bit bigger, but actually, at the same time, we have a lot of them. As long as I'm willing to drive a few hours, and I am, I can go to a tournament every couple months all year long, and for my wife, that's plenty. So if I'm going to 4 or 5 or 6 tournaments a year, that's good. And if they're 30 to 60 people, I don't see why it's necessarily better. Like if they were 60 to 80 people on average. Those tournaments are fun. I love going to Buckeye Battles because it's larger, but I don't need all my tournaments to be like that. So I'm happy with 9th Age because we retained the tournament scene, and in some ways the tournament scene has grown. We actually have more tournaments now than we used to have. And as a side note, we actually, there are people playing the game now that didn't really play much during 8th, and there are people that played during 8th that aren't playing 9th Age. I'm talking to my region. But a lot of the ones we lost, we lost a handful of the bad apples. And by bad apples, the people that just kind of brought down my enjoyment of the game. So we don't really, I'd like for all of them to come back if they just wouldn't do those things that lessened mine and others' enjoyment. So we actually kind of lost some of the bad apples. So we're a little bit smaller, but overall the culture and vibe, I think, is better than it was. So, in that mind, and speaking again just from my experience of it selfishly, it's been fantastic. It's been really nice. I've probably mentioned these all the time on my channel, but two of the things that the Games Workshop did that just really, really frustrated me were, obviously they would try to. I don't know if they just didn't play test or if they just didn't care, but something would happen like in 7th edition, they had a rule that if you were in combat and against an opponent that had fear and you lost and they outnumbered you, then it was auto break. You're done. You're running. And I just hated that. I hated that more than you would believe, because I would fly Pegasus Knights, and if they kind of rubber lanced and lost by 1, they automatically had to run. Or my opponent would field the biggest unit of Black Knights possible with 1 or 2 vampires in there, and with very, very few exceptions would outnumber any, especially after combat, any unit I had on the table, and just overrun everything. So things like that, it seems to me that if something like that happened with the 9th Age, within a month or 3, I think the rules team would step in and make an addendum and say, okay, wait, this nobody wants this, let's fix it. And so it's kind of a living game, more than Games Workshop had by far, and that I really like. I remember when the 7th edition Demon's Book came out. Now back in 7th edition, the magic phase worked differently. You got number of power dice based on your magic level and the number of wizards. So you might have 3 wizards, and if they were level 4, then you might have a 12 power dice magic phase, and then there are other ways to get dice. Well, if you built a certain kind of list, your demon army could have 24 power dice, and you might only have 3. And they just went. I mean, the Demon Book was ridiculous anyway, but they would just, there you go. I'm going to win through the magic phase. And the designs they did, stuff like that, because they were trying to promote a certain book or something, just used to really frustrate me. And now, the thinking behind decisions is fundamentally different. Nobody in the 9th Age is thinking about, we want to promote a certain army or we want to sell models. And it's funny when I hear people on the forums. There's always gripers everywhere. Haters gonna hate. And there's always somebody saying like, "Oh, my army, they just don't like my army," and it's like, go to all the forums. You're gonna find somebody saying they just really don't like my army. It cracks me up. But I think you can see through those complaints. Those are pretty thin complaints. You can see through them. The thinking behind the decisions is, we want as balanced a game as possible, and although that's impossible to perfect, we can certainly be a lot closer than we've ever had in the past. So it's been 2 fantastic years for me. Ironically, my channel is less active than ever, but just that's not because I'm less active. I'm actually more active in the hobby and gaming. I think I'm just kind of tired of doing the same old thing. I like the style battle report I do, but I've done 550 of them, I think, and I just get tired of it sometimes. And I tend to do better at tournaments when my opponents don't know all my tactics and stuff. But it's funny because I'm painting more than I've ever painted. I'm playing more with one exception. When I got a new job and I lived without the family for a year, with that one exception, I'm playing more than I've ever played in the past. One thing I'd want to talk briefly about, though, is, from the beginning, people have complained about, the 9th Age will never, and you hear this less and less, by the way, especially where I'm at. But people say, the 9th Age will never work because there's no company supporting it. How can it work? And I would like to think that if somebody, at least in the Mid-Atlantic, was here, I think you would look around and say, well, that's patently not true, because it is working. It has worked. I think the toughest period for it should have been when they first started, and it was fine, and now it's better than ever, and there's still no one company that puts out the rules. It's been nice to not hear that as much lately. Now here in the U.S., the Mid-Atlantic, the scene is thriving. The Midwest, the scene is doing well. I can't speak to it. I don't know. Maybe if it's as well as it used to be or not. I don't know, but it's doing fine. The Northeast, I've heard the scene is picking up. But then there are other parts of the country where it still hasn't caught on quite as much yet. And so if you're going to look for why it might work and why it wouldn't work, then I would say look at those parts of the country and ask yourself what's different. Because in no part of the country is there a company that writes the rules. It's that isn't the factor. In my mind, Whether the Ninth Age continues to grow and whether it's successful in the long term has nothing to do with whether there's a company sponsoring it. It's just irrelevant. We have fantastic companies out there. I've become such. It's been nice to learn of these companies that I had never heard of before. Rotten Factory, Hidden Dreams, TMS. I mean, there are companies out there making fantastic stuff, and now I'm looking at those companies instead of just looking at Games Workshop. I still look at Games Workshop. I think they're a great model company, but we don't need one company writing the rules. We need companies making cool stuff that we can buy. And what Games Workshop never understood is we want to give our money away. Like, give me a reason to buy this stupid toy so I can paint it. This is my hobby. Please give me a reason to engage in the hobby. And by the way, the Ninth Age is doing that just because it makes me I get so excited. I keep on starting new armies. Anyway, but whether this long-term success has nothing to do with whether there's a company supporting it. I would go so far as to say it isn't going to depend on whether the Ninth Age is the absolute best game out there. For one, because there is no such thing, right? It's kind of subjective. But it's kind of like, I don't know if all you youngsters probably don't remember this, but back in the day, when computers were first becoming a thing, there were several different operating systems out there, and Microsoft DOS, they didn't have Windows back then, so DOS was one of them, and it was the worst. Period. All their competitors were better than they were, but Bill Gates was kind of shrewd, and he got the contract to put DOS as the operating system on all of IBM's computers, and IBM was the biggest manufacturer at the time, and it just kind of he was really smart about buying companies up so that if they were going to be a good competitor against his product, he would buy them up and then just let it die. Microsoft becoming the dominant operating system had nothing to do with it being the best product. It wasn't the best product. It was arguably one of the worst products. There are other factors besides that. So, although Ninth Age, I think, needs to be a good game, whether it's long-term success isn't about it being perfect. And, that's one message that I hope the rules team and all the other staff members realize is that you want to do a good job. We all want a good product, but, there's no such thing as perfection. You don't have to strive for it for this to work. Whether it works or not is completely up to the community. It is working here in the Mid-Atlantic because the community here, the local pockets of players, the ones in Raleigh, the ones up near DC, the ones, where there are pockets of players, just kept playing the game, and they're having fun and they're excited about it, and people that they know who maybe they used to play in the past or they played a similar game, some of them have joined in. That's how it's going to grow and be successful. It has nothing to do with the company. It has nothing to do with whether or not the Ninth Age rules team gets it exactly right. It's literally the players make it work. And so as long as there's enough players making it work, then that's the extent to which it will be successful. The one cancer to this and any other game, but I think it becomes more common with this because Games Workshop never really reached out and asked players what they wanted. In Ninth Age, because we're a community driven game, there are players creating the game for players. Many people misinterpret that to mean that it's a game that the most vocal members of the community on the forums should have whatever they say. And it can become a cancer in my mind because and it's the only thing I worry about. I don't lose too much sleep over it, but the one thing I worry about is, I study stuff like this, like how do trends among people happen? How do social trends happen in really good ways and in really bad negative ways? How do terrorist cells evolve? That's the kind of stuff I look at, right? A lot of times it's just because you get somebody that that speaks to a particular concern and makes a compelling case, regardless of whether he or she is right or if anything such as right exists in what they're talking about. Sometimes just by complaining about stuff, you create a concern, and then other people are browsing the forum and they read that and they're like, oh, yeah, there's a thing now. There's this big concern. It's like, no, it's not a big concern. It's one loudmouth insisting that what he wants is the way it should be. Um, so my take on that, and I don't know, again, if you follow the channel, I'm semi-quoting myself. The first time I was talking to the Ninth Age, I actually spoke to the Ninth Age. This is before I was really involved with it. And I told him at the time, I was like, I don't really care what your rules are as long as you deliver a game that scratches my itch, right? I don't care about the particulars. It can be done a lot of different ways. And then I gave them some advice or whatever. Gave them my 2 cents. It's a way I approach a lot of things. I give you a metaphor for your relationships. I'm talking to all you kids out there, all you old folks probably know as much as I do about this. But so there's a story. I don't know if it's famous or not. My wife made me read it when we were engaged, but it's about a married couple who the husband would peel his grapefruit like an orange, and he would eat it by the slice like an orange instead of, like, most people don't eat grapefruits that way. And it just drove the wife crazy that her husband did that, and it kind of bothered her for a long time. And finally, she's just like, "Honey, this is dumb. You do not eat a grapefruit the right way. What you're supposed to do is, cut it in half and then sprinkle sugar on it and do whatever the hell you do." And he was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. All right." And she said, "In this relationship, we need to be open and honest with each other. So what are things that I do that you don't like?" And he responded, I don't know. And the way my wife and I interpreted that is the wife's just being ridiculous, insisting that, the way that she would eat a grapefruit is the way everybody should eat a grapefruit. And I find that it works for me to not worry about insignificant details in my marriage, at work, at anything I do. When things are important, you stand your ground. But if you insist on having your way on every little thing in life, including how your spouse eats a grapefruit, you're just creating a bad world. You're just making it worse. Thanks for being here. I think it's a lot easier just to go with the flow with most things. So when the Ninth Age comes out with a certain kind of rule, or they design a book a certain way, and it's not how you envisioned it, that's okay, man. Just roll with it. They couldn't read your mind. If they could read your mind, they couldn't read everybody's mind and make everybody happy. It will never happen. Quit acting like the grapefruit is something a lot more important than what it really is. So when I hear people say, like, I can no longer play my army this one particular way because there was a 3-year period when I could play that way. I never could before, but then I could, and now I can't. So therefore, I'm not going to play the game. I'm like, man, you're just striving for unhappiness. It's a crappy way to go through life. And I think that's a cancer. And I don't think it's a cancer that's going to kill the Ninth Age, but I think that's the kind of thing that all of us, when we participate in the forums, need to discourage people from doing, is don't insist that your ideas need to be followed. Just roll with it. It's not exactly what you wanted. Is it still good? If it can still be good, then just roll with it. It'd be better to play that game that doesn't match your ideal world, and just be happy with it. So I think that's just part of the way it's designed. The way that, because we say we're a community-driven game, people think therefore their ideas should be heard, even if they'll have a vote. The majority of people in this vote said something, therefore we should do it. Not really, man. Just chill out. It doesn't matter. Reminds me of The Big Lebowski. I'm going to swear in a second, so if you can't have swearing. But The Big Lebowski is just an awesome, dumb movie. But I love that part where he's talking with John Goodman, and John Goodman's like, he was all mad because that like another bowler stepped on the line, and he freaked out and pulled a gun on him, right? Because the guy cheated when he didn't mean to or anything. And the main character is like, I'm not saying you're not right. You're just being an asshole. And I'm like, yeah. I think that's so much. Like, you have this idea about the game. You think it could have been done better this way. Maybe you're right. But you're definitely being an asshole. And it just doesn't matter. So, yeah. The Ninth Age, my experience with it, especially being behind the scenes with the Beast Herds book, and then to the extent that I am involved in the advisory board, which is less and less as time goes on, it's kind of changed how I think about things, about the impossibility of making everybody happy. I think we all know it, but it's kind of made it very real for me. But the game is by far better than anything I had ever played, and the community here in the Mid-Atlantic is not quite the largest community that I've ever played, but probably the second largest if you know that I've ever had the experience of playing with, but the most collegial and the most fun. And I think there's a lot of camaraderie, and I wonder if it's because we all stuck around with this game system when Warhammer Fantasy was killed. So yeah, happy 2-year anniversary to the Ninth Age. I've always thought that the hardest part in their survival was going to be the first year or two. Could they get through that? And they did, and things are going strong. So I'm happy about that, and I appreciate all the work that everybody puts into it. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it.
So we're at the end, guys and girls, and I want to end with the most important thing, is to make certain we have a game for the next generation. From all the staff from the Night Age, thanks. Thanks for everything.